Bagram, the huge U.S. airbase that once hummed with jets, convoys, and mission-accomplished headlines. 4 years after the evacuation, one man says, "Give it back, or bad things will happen." Stick around because this isn't a threat, it's a political mic drop, with very messy logistics. Welcome back. Today, we were decoding the latest diplomatic flex, President Donald Trump publicly demanding Bagram Airbase be handed back to the U.S., tweeting and talking like it is the same as reclaiming a lost phone. Except the phone needs fences, thousands of troops, and a logistics train longer than his list of unreturned favors. Yes, the Taliban said no. Yes, it would be insanely hard. And no, this is not a movie scene where the hero storms in during the credits. Let's rewind. From 2001 to 2021, the U.S. ran a very visible military footprint in Afghanistan. Bagram was the big hub. Think of it as the Pentagon's regional airport plus fortress plus detention center, all rolled into one. But the messy, chaotic withdrawal in 2021 left the site empty, and the Taliban walked into the gear and the headlines. Fast forward to 2025. Trump says negotiations are happening and then warns on social media that bad things you'd see will happen if Afghanistan doesn't hand the base back. The Taliban immediately answered, "No deal. Our sovereignty isn't on the auction block." Here is where it gets deliciously absurd. Threatening bad things is Trump's political opera. Big, loud, and designed to get applause from the back rows. But threats are not strategies. Saying you could do something on Truth Social is not the same as planning a complex overseas operation that requires fuel, supply lines, diplomacy, allied permission, and the kind of money that would make a casino owner blush. For context, independent analysts say retaking and holding Bagram wouldn't even be a weekend job. It could need tens of thousands of troops and major resupply efforts. Not exactly a grab-and-go. If owning a country were like owning a golf course, Mr. Trump would be the man to call. Unfortunately, geopolitics isn't a golf weekend. You can't just post an order and expect the fairways to clear. The Taliban's response wasn't just stubbornness for drama. It was a clear geopolitical posture. They repeatedly emphasize sovereignty and the Doha Agreement, the paper that set the stage for the U.S. pullout. Letting the U.S. reoccupy a giant base in Afghanistan would mean a partial reversal of that whole arrangement, and would risk domestic blowback and regional tensions with neighbors who already see Afghanistan as a fragile, contested space. Translation: the Taliban saying no was both political and practical. If the U.S. ever decided to actually attack Afghanistan again, or take back Bagram, the reality would look less like a Hollywood sequel and more like the longest, most expensive rerun ever broadcast. You'd need a massive military footprint, not a weekend commando raid, and the kind of supply chains that make Amazon Prime look like child's play. It would trigger regional blowback from Pakistan, Iran, China, and Russia, all of whom have zero interest in Washington parking a giant fortress in their backyard again. And instead of Afghan fighter jets flying across oceans to New York or Tel Aviv, which they simply can the real danger would be extremist networks trying to stir up chaos in revenge. Add to that the political firestorm at home because selling taxpayers another endless war after 20 years of déjà vu would be like trying to convince people to buy a second ticket to the Titanic, only this time with more leaks, and watching Trump thunder, "Bad things will happen," on Truth Social, while pretending geopolitics works like evicting a tenant from a golf resort, is almost comedic because grabbing an airbase in a landlocked country is an ordering room service. It is a logistical nightmare that would burn money faster than one of his casinos on closing day. And the Taliban's blunt no wasn't just defiance, it was a reminder that Afghanistan is not a storage locker you can threaten your way back into. History has already shown that every U.S. Afghan encounter, from the 2001 invasion to the 2021 withdrawal to Trump's own Doha Agreement, carries costs measured in blood, dollars, and broken promises. So anyone who thinks you can just repost a demand and watch the runway lights flicker back on is basically trying to return an item they never paid for in the first place. And the cruel irony is that the loudest warnings often come from the same man who negotiated the exit. Like blaming the fire department for closing the hydrant after you sold the water hose at a yard sale.